My name is Nathan, 38 years old, and my entire world collapsed when I found that pregnancy test in our bathroom trash. The twist? I had secretly gotten a vasectomy 3 years ago after suspecting my wife Rebecca was cheating. 10 years of marriage, countless fertility appointments where she blamed me for our inability to conceive. Then I overheard her talking to her mother. Of course I'll tell him it's his. My heart shattered instantly. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear how I turned my devastation into the ultimate revenge. Rebecca and I met at a small coffee shop in downtown Seattle. I was working on some code for a new project, and she accidentally spilled her latte on my laptop. Most guys would have been furious, but there was something about her smile that melted my anger away. She insisted on paying for repairs, which led to dinner, which led to the most intense relationship I had ever experienced. 6 months later, I proposed on a weekend trip to Portland. She cried when she said yes. I was thriving in my career as a software engineer at a respected tech company. My salary allowed us to buy a beautiful home in a great neighborhood. Rebecca worked as a marketing executive, and we were the envy of our social circle. The perfect power couple. During those first 5 years, we traveled, we built our careers, and we talked constantly about the family we would someday have. Rebecca wanted at least 2 kids, maybe 3. I was all in. We decided to start trying for a baby when Rebecca turned 32. At first, it was exciting and spontaneous. But after 6 months with no results, Rebecca's mood began to change. She started tracking her ovulation with an app, scheduling our intimate moments around her fertility windows. The romance was fading, replaced by a clinical approach that left me feeling more like a sperm donor than a husband. After a year of trying, Rebecca insisted we see a fertility specialist. Dr. Morgan ran tests on both of us. The results showed nothing obviously wrong, but Rebecca became fixated on the idea that my sperm count was the issue. Maybe your long hours at the computer are affecting your swimmers, she'd say. The doctor suggested we keep trying, maybe reduce stress. That's when I noticed the first real changes in Rebecca. She started working late more often. New friends entered her life that I never met. Her phone became her most guarded possession. If I walked into a room while she was texting, she'd quickly flip her phone over. When I asked about it, she'd snap at me, saying I was being paranoid and controlling. During a follow-up appointment in our 2nd year of trying, Dr. Morgan asked to speak with me privately. Rebecca was annoyed but waited in the lobby. Once alone, he told me something that changed everything. Nathan, your fertility levels are perfectly normal. There's no medical reason why you couldn't conceive naturally. I thanked him, confused why he felt the need to tell me this separately. That night, Rebecca insisted we try again, right on schedule with her ovulation app. As she showered afterward, her phone lit up with a message. I had never checked her phone before, but something compelled me to look. The message was from someone saved as Work Marcus. It read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Same hotel tomorrow?" My stomach turned to ice. I put the phone down exactly as it had been. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more work emergencies and late meetings. Rebecca would come home smelling of unfamiliar cologne, claiming it was from hugging a client. Once, I found a receipt for 2 glasses of wine and dinner at a restaurant on a night she claimed to be working late alone. After 3 months of gathering evidence, I made a decision that would change everything. I scheduled a vasectomy. I told no one, took a business trip for 3 days, and recovered in a hotel. When I returned home, I acted as if nothing had changed. We continued our scheduled attempts to conceive. Rebecca continued her secret life. I continued pretending I didn't know. For another 3 years, this charade continued. Rebecca's frustration with our inability to conceive grew more pronounced. She suggested more expensive treatments, specialists in other states, even sperm donors. I agreed to everything except the donor, saying I wanted to keep trying naturally alongside other treatments. All the while, I knew conception was impossible. "It's not fair," She would cry after getting her period. All I want is to be a mother. I would hold her, comfort her, tell her we would keep trying, all while knowing she was meeting someone else behind my back. The guilt of my deception was nothing compared to the pain of her betrayal. Looking back, I realized that getting the vasectomy was my way of taking back control. Of testing my suspicions. If she ever came to me pregnant, I would have indisputable proof of her infidelity. I just never actually expected it to happen. Last Tuesday started like any other day. Rebecca left for work early, kissing me goodbye at the door. I had a late start that day, so I took my time getting ready. While throwing some tissues into the bathroom trash can, I noticed something partially wrapped in toilet paper at the bottom. Curiosity got the better of me. My heart nearly stopped when I unwrapped it and found a pregnancy test. Positive. 2 pink lines that changed everything. For a brief, irrational moment, I wondered if my vasectomy had somehow failed. It happens in rare cases. But deep down, I knew better. I photographed the test and carefully placed it back exactly as I had found it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely operate my phone camera. I called in sick to work and sat at our kitchen table, staring at the wall for what felt like hours. Rebecca had been extra affectionate lately. More interested in intimacy outside her ovulation windows. Now I understood why. She needed to establish a timeline. She needed me to believe this baby could be mine. That night, Rebecca announced she wasn't feeling well and went to bed early. Around midnight, I heard her bathroom door close. She was in there for nearly 15 minutes. When she came back to bed, she seemed tense, checking to see if I was asleep. I regulated my breathing to appear unconscious. The next morning, she was unusually cheerful, making my favorite breakfast before work. I called in sick again. As soon as Rebecca left, I went straight to the bathroom trash. The test was gone. She had disposed of it elsewhere. Fortunately, I had my photo. I needed more information, more confirmation before confronting her. I remembered Rebecca had a lunch meeting with her mother every Wednesday. This seemed like the perfect opportunity to learn more. I purchased a small recording device and hid it under the coffee table in our living room, where Rebecca always sat to take personal calls. The next day, I pretended to go to work but parked down the street. I slipped back into the house at 11:30, just before Rebecca would return for her usual call with her mother before meeting her for lunch. I hid in our guest bedroom closet, listening. Right on schedule, Rebecca came home. I heard her moving around the kitchen, then settling in the living room. The phone rang on speaker. "Hi, Mom," Rebecca said, sounding happier than I had heard her in months. "Rebecca, honey. How are you feeling?" "A little nauseous, but the doctor said that's normal. I have an appointment next week for the first ultrasound. Have you told Nathan yet?" There was a pause. My heart pounded so loudly I feared Rebecca might hear it from the living room. "No," she finally said. "I'm waiting for the right moment. Sweetheart, you need to tell him soon. He'll be thrilled." Another pause. "Actually, Mom, there's something I need to tell you. But you have to swear not to tell Dad." "What is it?" "Is everything okay with the baby?" "The baby is fine. It's just, it might not be Nathan's." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt my legs go weak. "What do you mean might not be?" "Rebecca, please tell me you haven't been." "I've been seeing someone, Mom. For a while now. His name is Marcus." "Oh, Rebecca. How could you do this to Nathan? He's been so good to you." "I know, Mom. I feel terrible. But Marcus and we have something special. Something I never had with Nathan." "Does Marcus know about the baby?" "Yes, I told him yesterday." He freaked out. Said he's not ready to be a father. That his wife would divorce him if she found out. "His wife? Rebecca, he's married too?" "Yes, but he's been unhappy for years. He was going to leave her, but now with the baby, he's scared." "So what are you going to do?" "Of course, I'll tell Nathan it's his. My lover isn't ready for a baby. He might leave me. Besides, Nathan has always wanted a baby. He'll be thrilled. By the time the baby comes, maybe Marcus will change his mind. If not, Nathan never needs to know. I had to clamp my hand over my mouth to prevent any sound from escaping. The room was spinning. I slid down against the wall of the closet, sitting on the floor as their conversation continued. Rebecca, this is wrong on so many levels. You need to be honest with Nathan. And say what? Sorry, I've been cheating on you for 2 years, and now I'm pregnant with my married lover's child. He would leave me, Mom. And Marcus might not step up. I could end up alone and a single mother. You've made a terrible mess, Rebecca. I can't support this. It's not fair to Nathan. I'm not asking for your support, Mom. I'm just asking you to keep my secret. For your grandchild's sake. The conversation shifted to lighter topics after that. 20 minutes later, Rebecca left to meet her mother for lunch. I remained frozen in the closet for another 30 minutes, replaying her words in my mind. 2 years. My wife had been cheating on me for 2 years with a married man named Marcus. And now she was pregnant with his child, planning to pass it off as mine. The ultimate betrayal. When I finally emerged from the closet, I went straight to Rebecca's home office. I knew her password pattern, the first 2 digits of her birth month, followed by our anniversary date, followed by the first 2 digits of her birth year. Pathetically predictable. Her email opened without issue. I searched for Marcus, and found hundreds of messages. Many with attachments. Photos of them together. Hotel confirmations. The evidence was overwhelming. But the final blow came when I saw his last name and profile picture in one of the emails. Marcus Whitfield. My friend. Someone who had been to our home for dinner parties. Someone I had confided in about our fertility struggles. Someone who had looked me in the eye while sleeping with my wife. I needed more evidence, more details before making my next move. I contacted a private investigator named Jack Peterson, who came highly recommended for his discretion in matrimonial cases. We met at a cafe 20 miles from my neighborhood to avoid any chance encounters with people who knew me. I need everything you can find on this affair, I told him, sliding a folder across the table. Inside was all the information I had gathered so far: names, dates, the recording transcript, copies of emails. Jack nodded, his face professional and emotionless. Phone records, surveillance, financial trails. I'll cover it all. Give me a week. That week was the hardest of my life. I went through the motions at home, pretending everything was normal. Rebecca seemed to be waiting for the right moment to tell me her good news. She was extra attentive, cooking my favorite meals, suggesting weekend getaways. The performance was impressive. I wondered how many other performances I had applauded over the years. Jack delivered his report exactly 7 days later. We met in the same cafe, but this time he had a much thicker folder. The affair has been going on for 26 months, he began. They meet primarily at the Westlake Hotel, room always booked under his corporate account. They have a regular pattern, Tuesdays and Thursdays, occasionally weekends when you're away. He showed me photographs. Rebecca and Marcus entering the hotel. Holding hands in a park I didn't recognize. Kissing in his car in an underground parking garage. Each image was like a knife to my chest. Marcus Whitfield, 42, Senior Marketing Director at Apex Solutions. Married to Emily Whitfield for 15 years. 2 children, ages 12 and 9. I felt sick thinking about his family, his children. Did Emily suspect anything? Was she going through the same hell of uncertainty that I had endured for years? There's more, Jack continued. Financial records show your wife has been transferring money from your joint account to a private account in her name only. Small amounts, between $500 and $800, once a month for the past 18 months. Total just under $14,000. My shock must have been evident because Jack paused, giving me a moment to process this new betrayal. Where was the money going? I finally asked. Some to the hotel bills Marcus wasn't covering with his corporate card. Some to gifts for him. Expensive watches, designer clothes. And some appears to be savings. Perhaps for an exit plan. An exit plan. While pretending to try for a baby with me, my wife had been building an escape fund. The depth of her deception was staggering. What about Marcus's wife? Emily. Does she know? Jack shook his head. No evidence she's aware. Her social media shows a woman proud of her family, her husband. She posts about their date nights, family vacations. She believes they're happy. I thought about Emily, living in blissful ignorance, much as I had been until finding that pregnancy test. There was something cruel about her happiness now, knowing it was built on lies. The next day, I met with Alan Sawyer, a divorce attorney recommended by a colleague who had gone through a similar situation. Alan's office was sparse but elegant, with diplomas and certifications covering one wall. Given the evidence you've gathered, you're in a strong position, Alan said after reviewing everything. Washington is a no-fault state, but infidelity can still impact property division and alimony if we can prove financial misconduct, which the separate account suggests. I don't care about punishing her financially, I said. I just want out cleanly. And I want to make sure I'm not legally responsible for a child that isn't mine. Alan nodded. We'll file for divorce immediately after you've secured your personal possessions and financial documents. I suggest moving money from joint accounts to protect yourself, but only your fair share. Document everything. And get a paternity test as soon as possible after the birth. What if she tries to claim the child is mine? With your vasectomy records and the recorded conversation, we can fight that. But be prepared, this could get messy. I left Alan's office with a clear plan forming. But there was one more piece of information I needed: Emily Whitfield's contact information. Finding it wasn't difficult. Her real estate business website listed her cell phone and email. That night, Rebecca mentioned feeling nauseous at dinner. She didn't outright say she was pregnant, but she was laying groundwork, dropping hints. I pretended not to notice, even suggested it might be a stomach bug going around. The look of irritation that flashed across her face was almost comical. When she went to bed early, I sat alone in our living room, scrolling through the photos Jack had provided. 10 years of marriage reduced to evidence of betrayal. I allowed myself one moment of complete breakdown, sobbing silently into a pillow so Rebecca wouldn't hear. Then I dried my eyes, straightened my shoulders, and finalized my plan. The next morning, I called my bank and initiated the transfer of exactly half our joint savings into my personal account. I made copies of our tax returns, investment statements, property deeds, and insurance policies. I photographed valuable items we had acquired during our marriage. Methodical. Precise. The emotional man from last night was gone, replaced by someone coldly efficient. I found myself wondering if this was how Rebecca had felt while building her separate account. This calculated detachment. This secret planning while smiling at your spouse over breakfast. The opportunity to execute my plan came sooner than expected. Rebecca announced she needed to attend a 3-day marketing conference in Chicago. I knew from Jack's investigation that Marcus was scheduled to attend the same conference. Their pattern was so predictable it was almost insulting. "I'll miss you," she said at the airport drop-off, kissing me goodbye. "Maybe we can try again for a baby when I get back?" She placed my hand on her stomach briefly, the irony so thick I could barely breathe. "Safe travels," I managed to say. "We'll talk when you get back." As soon as her plane took off, I sprang into action. I had 3 days to completely disappear from Rebecca's life. I rented a storage unit and began methodically packing my belongings. Clothes, personal items, family heirlooms from before our marriage. I left all the furniture, kitchen items, and wedding gifts. Material things held no value compared to my dignity. In our home office, I found a small box containing mementos from our relationship. Movie ticket stubs from our first date. The cork from the champagne bottle we opened when I proposed. A pressed flower from her wedding bouquet. I sat on the floor, box in my lap, and allowed myself to remember the man who had saved these items. The man who had loved Rebecca completely. Who had believed in their future. That man was gone now, replaced by someone harder, more cautious. I closed the box and left it on her desk. Next came the letter. I sat at my computer for hours, writing and rewriting what I wanted to say. How do you summarize the end of a decade-long relationship? How do you tell someone you know their darkest secret? In the end, I kept it simple. Rebecca. I know about Marcus. I know about the baby. I know about your plan to pass his child off as mine. What you don't know is that I had a vasectomy 3 years ago after finding the first messages between you two. The procedure was successful. There is 0 chance this baby is mine. I've taken what belongs to me and nothing more. The divorce papers will be delivered to your office next week. Please don't contact me directly. All communication should go through my attorney. Nathan. I printed the letter and left it on our bed. Then I reached out to Emily Whitfield, sending her an anonymous email with a meeting request. To my surprise, she agreed to meet the following day at a quiet cafe outside the city. Emily was nothing like I had imagined. Somehow I had pictured a meek, neglected wife. Instead, I found myself facing a confident, attractive woman with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Thank you for meeting me, I said. I'm afraid I have some difficult information to share with you. Her face remained composed, but her hands tightened around her coffee cup. Is this about Marcus? I nodded, surprised by her directness. Yes. I'm sorry to tell you that he's been having an affair with my wife, Rebecca. For over 2 years now. Emily closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were clear and focused. I suspected something was going on. The late nights, the work trips that seemed unnecessary. The emotional distance. But I had no proof. I slid an envelope across the table. Now you do. She opened it slowly, examining the photos inside. With each image, her face grew more resolved, less shocked. When she came to the last item, the photograph of the positive pregnancy test, she looked up sharply. Is your wife pregnant? Yes. And she intends to pass the baby off as mine. I overheard her telling her mother that Marcus isn't ready to be a father, that he might leave you if you found out. Emily's laugh was harsh, unexpected. Marcus would never leave me, regardless of what he's told your wife. Do you know why? I shook my head, confused by her reaction. Because this isn't the first time. 5 years ago, he had an affair with his assistant. She got pregnant too. Marcus begged me to stay, promised to end things, to be a better husband. I gave him one more chance for our children's sake. Her voice was steady, her eyes dry. Your wife isn't special to him. She's a pattern. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Rebecca wasn't just betraying me, she was being played by a serial cheater who had no intention of leaving his family. The tragic irony made me dizzy. What will you do now? I asked. Exactly what I should have done 5 years ago. File for divorce, take my children, and rebuild my life. She gathered the photos back into the envelope. And you? I'm already gone. Just tying up loose ends. Emily reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you for telling me. It couldn't have been easy. We parted with an understanding between us, 2 strangers united by the same betrayal. I finished moving my belongings to the storage unit and checked into a hotel. By the time Rebecca's plane landed in 3 days, I would be completely gone from her life. The final night in our house, I walked through each room, saying goodbye to the home we had built together. In the nursery we had painted yellow 3 years ago, ready for a baby that never came, I allowed myself one final moment of grief for the family we would never have. Not because of fertility issues, but because of broken trust. I locked the door behind me at dawn, leaving my key and garage door opener on the entryway table. 10 years reduced to a letter, an empty closet, and the shock Rebecca would feel when she returned to find me gone. Rebecca's flight was scheduled to land at 4:30 in the afternoon. At 5:15, my phone exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, voicemails, all from Rebecca. I ignored them all, sending one brief text. Read the letter. An hour later, the calls switched to my work number. Then my email. Then messages from her friends, asking if I was okay, saying Rebecca was worried. The performance was impressive, but I remained silent. Around 9 that evening, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Curious, I answered. Is this Nathan? A male voice, tense and angry. Who's asking? It's Marcus. We need to talk. The audacity was breathtaking. No, we don't. Talk to your wife. Both of them. Listen, you don't understand. Rebecca is hysterical. She says you left some crazy note about the baby not being yours. About me. This is all a misunderstanding. A 2-year misunderstanding? Impressive. Did you misunderstand all those hotel rooms too? All those dinners? All those messages about how you were going to leave your wife? Silence on the line. Then lower, controlled. What do you want? Money? Is that why you contacted Emily? I don't want anything from you, Marcus. Except for you to leave me alone. You've taken enough. I hung up and blocked his number. Then I called Emily. Marcus just called me. I told her. He knows we've talked. I know, she replied, her voice calm. He came home early from the conference after Rebecca called him about your letter. He's been begging for forgiveness for the past 2 hours. Promised to end things with Rebecca, to go to counseling. The same script as last time. Are you okay? I will be. My lawyer is drawing up papers as we speak. My sister is coming tomorrow to help with the kids. She paused. Rebecca came by here looking for Marcus. She was not well. I felt a twinge of something, not quite pity, but acknowledgement of the pain Rebecca must be feeling. Her carefully constructed plan was collapsing around her. Still, it was pain of her own making. The next morning, Rebecca was waiting outside my office building. Her eyes were red and swollen, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled. Colleagues stared as they walked past her. Nathan, please, she called when she spotted me. We need to talk. Let me explain. I walked past her toward the building entrance. She grabbed my arm, forcing me to stop. 5 minutes. Please. I'm pregnant with your baby. Several colleagues slowed their pace, openly watching now. I turned to face her. We both know that's not true, Rebecca. I had a vasectomy 3 years ago. The baby isn't mine. Her face went pale. What? No. That's not possible. You would have told me. Like you told me about Marcus? The public confrontation was drawing a crowd. Rebecca lowered her voice, desperate now. It was a mistake. Marcus means nothing to me. I was going to end it. Please, Nathan, we can work through this. There's nothing to work through. It's over. Please respect that and contact my lawyer from now on. As I walked away, she called after me. He left me. Marcus won't answer my calls. His wife knows everything. My life is falling apart. Don't you care at all? I kept walking, her words echoing in the lobby. Sympathy and curiosity in my colleagues' eyes. By lunch, everyone knew. By evening, our social circle was buzzing with the news. Rebecca's mother called that night. Nathan, I am so sorry. What my daughter did is unforgivable. But she's still carrying my grandchild. Is there any way you could at least talk to her? She's not eating, not sleeping. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I truly am. But Rebecca made her choice. She planned to trick me into raising another man's child while continuing her affair. There's no coming back from that. I understand. Just, please tell me you're okay. I will be, I said, surprised to find I meant it. Over the next week, the fallout continued. Marcus was placed on administrative leave at his company after Emily provided evidence that he had used corporate accounts to fund his affair. Rebecca's marketing firm, which prided itself on ethical standards, initiated an internal investigation when rumors of her affair with a client became public. Friends took sides, most expressing shock and support for me. Rebecca showed up at my hotel, somehow tracking me down. Security escorted her out when she refused to leave. She sent emails, letters, even had flowers delivered with cards begging for another chance. Each attempt reinforced my decision to leave. The divorce papers were delivered to her office as promised. My lawyer called to say she had received them but was contesting the grounds. She's claiming the baby is yours, despite your medical records. She's demanding a paternity test after birth. Let her, I replied. The results will only confirm what we already know. 2 weeks after I left, Emily called with news. Marcus moved out yesterday. He's staying with his brother. And he's telling everyone that Rebecca trapped him, that she got pregnant on purpose to break up his marriage. Do you believe that? No. He's just trying to save face. But Rebecca keeps calling our house, telling my children their father belongs with her. That they're in love. That she's carrying their sibling. It's beyond cruel. I felt a surge of protective anger. I'll talk to her. Don't. That's what she wants. Any contact at all gives her hope. Emily's voice softened. How are you holding up? Taking it day by day. My company offered me a transfer to our Boston office. I'm considering it. A fresh start might be good. Distance helps. We began talking regularly after that, sharing updates, offering support. Two people navigating similar storms, finding unexpected friendship in shared pain. Rebecca's attempts at contact became less frequent but more desperate. Her final effort came in the form of a thumb drive delivered to my hotel, containing videos of us during happier times. Vacations, anniversaries, ordinary moments of connection. Attached was a note. This was real. What I felt for you was real. Please don't throw away 10 years over one mistake. But it wasn't one mistake. It was thousands of daily choices to lie, to betray, to manipulate. The videos only highlighted how completely she had fooled me. I sent the drive back unopened, with a note of my own. I'm not throwing away 10 years. You did that the moment you chose Marcus over our vows. 3 weeks after finding the pregnancy test, I accepted the transfer to Boston. A continent of distance between my past and future. Rebecca learned of my decision from a mutual friend and made one last attempt to see me before I left. I just need closure, she texted. One conversation. Then I'll accept it's over. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet at a public restaurant. Rebecca arrived looking more composed than during our last encounter, but her eyes still held a desperate edge. Thank you for coming, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. You said you wanted closure. So talk. She took a deep breath. First, I want you to know how deeply sorry I am. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. I remained silent, waiting for the manipulation I knew would follow. But I need you to know something. I've always known you were fertile. The doctor told me years ago, just like he told you. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. What are you saying? I've been on birth control the whole time we were trying for a baby. I wasn't ready for children, but I couldn't tell you that. You wanted them so badly. Her eyes filled with tears. Then I met Marcus, and everything got so complicated. He made me feel alive again. Desired. Important. So you lied about wanting children? For years? At first. Then I did want them, just not with you. Not anymore. Marcus and I talked about having a family together. When I got pregnant, I thought it was a sign. The casual cruelty of her words left me speechless. All those years of trying, of watching her disappointment each month, of fertility appointments and discussions about treatments, all a charade. So the baby is definitely Marcus's? She nodded, not meeting my eyes. Yes. There's no question. Does he know you're here? No. He's gone, Nathan. Completely ghosted me after you left. Won't return my calls, blocked my emails. His brother told me he's talking about moving out of state. Her voice cracked. I'm going to be a single mother. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. I'm sorry that's happening to you. But it's not my concern anymore. I know. I just thought you deserved the whole truth before you left. As I stood to leave, she grabbed my hand. I did love you, Nathan. For a long time. Please believe that. I gently removed her hand. Goodbye, Rebecca. I wish you and your child well. Walking away from that restaurant, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. The last thread connecting me to Rebecca and the life we had shared was severed. I was finally free. The weeks following my move to Boston were focused on rebuilding. New apartment, new office, new routines. But even with 3,000 miles between us, Rebecca's betrayal continued to affect my daily life. The trust one had once given freely was now locked behind walls of caution. Dating seemed impossible when every interaction was filtered through suspicion. Emily and I maintained our unexpected friendship, checking in weekly by phone. Her divorce from Marcus was proceeding smoothly, largely because he had signed a prenuptial agreement that heavily favored her in case of infidelity. My own divorce was moving more slowly, with Rebecca contesting every point despite overwhelming evidence. She's dragging it out intentionally, my lawyer explained. Hoping you'll get frustrated and agree to less favorable terms just to be done with it. I'm not in a rush, I replied. She can drag it out all she wants. I'm not coming back. For months after leaving Seattle, I received an unexpected call from Jack Peterson, the private investigator. I thought you might want to know, he said without preamble. Marcus Whitfield is trying to get his old job back. The company completed their investigation and was planning to terminate him, but he resigned first. Now he's telling everyone it was all a misunderstanding, that your wife pursued him aggressively and he made a mistake but has reconciled with his family. The information sparked something in me. Not quite anger, not quite resentment, but a sense that justice remained incomplete. Marcus was attempting to rewrite the narrative, to paint himself as the victim rather than the predator. Thank you for letting me know, I told Jack. Could you send me the complete file on Marcus? Everything you gathered during your investigation? The file arrived the next day. As I reviewed it, a plan began to form. Not for revenge exactly, but for truth. For accountability. I called Emily. Have you heard Marcus is trying to get his job back? Yes, she sighed. He's also telling the children that we're working on our marriage, that he might move back home soon. None of it's true. The divorce will be final next month. Would you be opposed to making sure his professional circle knows exactly what happened? The complete truth, with evidence? There was a pause. What did you have in mind? Together, we crafted emails to Marcus's former company's board of directors, including documentation of his misuse of corporate funds to conduct his affair. We contacted clients he had worked with, professionally explaining the ethical breaches that had occurred on their accounts. We reached out to industry connections, not with gossip, but with verifiable facts. The response was swift and definitive. His former company issued a statement that they would not be reconsidering his employment. Clients expressed concerns about working with him in any capacity. Industry doors began closing. Meanwhile, Rebecca's attempts to maintain the pregnancy charade continued. She sent ultrasound photos to mutual friends with captions suggesting the baby was mine, crafting a narrative of an estranged husband who had abandoned her during pregnancy. The sympathy she garnered was substantial, until Emily and I decided to address that manipulation as well. We didn't target Rebecca directly. Instead, we simply shared the truth with key people in our social circle, providing the same evidence we had shared professionally. The recording of Rebecca admitting the baby wasn't mine. The fertility doctor's records confirming my vasectomy predated the pregnancy. Email exchanges between Rebecca and Marcus discussing their relationship. The support Rebecca had cultivated quickly evaporated. Friends who had been sympathetic became distant. Her professional reputation suffered as colleagues questioned her integrity. Her mother, who had initially begged me to reconsider, stopped contacting me entirely. 2 weeks later, Marcus called me, his voice tight with controlled rage. You've ruined my career. My reputation. Was that your goal? To destroy my life? I simply shared the truth, Marcus. The same truth you've been distorting to salvage your image. Your choices ruined your career, not me. Rebecca lost her job because of your vendetta. Did you know that? The firm let her go last week. She's pregnant and unemployed because you couldn't handle being left. His attempt to place blame on me was so transparent it was almost comical. First, I didn't leave her, Marcus. I left a liar who was planning to trick me into raising your child. Second, Rebecca lost her job because she violated company policy by having an affair with a client, you. And third, her unemployment is not my concern. Perhaps the baby's father should support her. He hung up without responding. Emily called the next day with an update. Marcus's brother kicked him out. Apparently, he hasn't been paying his share of rent and has been bad-mouthing Emily to friends. He's staying at a motel now. And Rebecca? She called me again. Crying, saying Marcus promised they would be together, that he's abandoning his child. I told her to stop contacting me and my children. The final piece of the revenge puzzle fell into place when Rebecca's attorney contacted mine with a settlement offer. She would stop contesting the divorce, agree to my terms, in exchange for a lump sum payment of $50,000. She's calling it pregnancy support, my lawyer explained. Even though she now acknowledges you're not the father, she's claiming the stress of the divorce has impacted her health and the baby's. She's threatening to file for spousal support if we don't agree. I laughed, the sound startling even to me. Send her the vasectomy records again. And the recording. And a firm no. I'll see her in court before I give her a dime. 2 days later, Rebecca withdrew her contest to the divorce. My lawyer called with the news. She's agreed to all terms. No financial claims from either party. Clean break. All she asks is to keep the house, which you've already agreed to. Why the sudden change? Apparently, paternity test results came back. Marcus is definitively the father. She's filing for child support from him. The irony was delicious. Rebecca, who had planned to pass another man's child off as mine, was now legally tied to that man for at least 18 years. Marcus, who had tried to walk away from his responsibilities, would be financially accountable for his actions. The very mechanisms they had tried to use to deceive me were now ensuring they remained connected to each other and the consequences of their choices. When the final divorce papers arrived for my signature, I felt nothing but relief. The nuclear revenge wasn't about destroying Rebecca or Marcus, though their lives had certainly imploded. It was about truth cutting through lies, reality replacing deception. It was about consequences finding those who had thought themselves immune. I signed the papers, officially ending my marriage to Rebecca, and mailed them back the same day. That night, I deleted all her contact information from my phone. Removed her from social media. Closed the final door on the life we had shared. The next morning, Emily texted, Marcus received child support papers yesterday. He's telling everyone the baby might not be his. History repeats. I texted back a single word. Karma. 6 months after moving to Boston, my new apartment finally felt like home. Pictures hung on walls. Bookshelves filled with novels I'd always meant to read. A guitar I was teaching myself to play leaned in the corner. Small markers of a life rebuilt from scratch. My therapist, Dr. Simmons, had been instrumental in helping me process the betrayal and its aftermath. Our weekly sessions had evolved from crisis management to deeper exploration of trust, vulnerability, and forgiveness, not for Rebecca's sake, but for my own. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, she told me during one session. Your ex-wife's actions reflect her character, not your worth. Those words became a mantra during difficult moments. When memories ambushed me. When trust issues sabotaged promising connections. When the temptation to check on Rebecca's life tugged at me. Work provided another anchor. The Boston office had welcomed me warmly, and the change of environment sparked new creativity. I was leading a team developing security software, The irony of building systems to protect against breaches not lost on me. My friendship with Emily had deepened over the months. What began as mutual support through shared trauma evolved into genuine connection. We spoke several times a week, about our divorces initially, then gradually about everything else. Books, movies, politics, the future. The divorce is final, she told me during one call. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm officially no longer Emily Whitfield. How does it feel? Like putting down a heavy suitcase I've been carrying for years. Lighter. Clearer. She paused. The kids are adjusting better than I expected. Marcus sees them every other weekend, when he bothers to show up. And Rebecca? Any more contact? Not since the baby was born last month. A boy. She named him Ethan. She posts a lot of single mom inspiration quotes on social media, but never mentions Marcus. Emily's voice softened. How are you doing with all of it? Better, I said, realizing it was true. The divorce paperwork came through last week. Rebecca tried to contest one last thing, some investment accounts, but the judge shut it down. It's done. Later that evening, an email notification appeared on my phone. From Rebecca. The first direct contact in months. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. Nathan. Ethan James Whitfield was born on June 12th. 7 pounds 9 ounces. Healthy and perfect. Marcus has seen him once, for 10 minutes in the hospital. He's already behind on child support. I'm not writing to complain or to ask for anything. I just wanted to say that I understand now. The pain of betrayal. The humiliation. All the things I put you through. Karma came for me, just as it came for Marcus. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I regret what I did to you every single day. You deserve better. I hope you're finding happiness in Boston. Rebecca. I read the email twice, searching for the manipulation, the hidden agenda. Finding none, I closed it without responding. Her apology changed nothing, but I was surprised to find it didn't stir anger either. Just a dull acknowledgement of a chapter closed. The next day, I received a job offer from a tech startup in Boston, offering more creative control and better compensation than my current position. The timing felt significant. A new professional chapter to match my personal one. Emily called that evening with her own news. I've been offered a position with a real estate developer in Providence. It's only an hour from Boston. The implication hung between us, unspoken but clear. Providence and Boston. Close enough for real friendship. Close enough for more, if we both wanted it. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely pleased. When would you move? 3 months. After the school year ends, so it's easier on the kids. She hesitated. Nathan, I know we've both been through hell. And I know we started talking because of shared trauma. But I've come to value your friendship more than you know. I feel the same way, I admitted. You've been a lifeline through all of this. Maybe when I'm settled in Providence, we could meet halfway for dinner? In person for once? The prospect sent an unexpected thrill through me. Not romance, not yet. But possibility. Connection without deception. Transparency without games. I'd like that, I said. A year after finding that pregnancy test in the trash, my life looked nothing like I had imagined it would. The family I had planned for was gone. The wife I had loved had become a stranger. The future I had counted on had evaporated. Yet in its place, something new had formed. Something authentic, built on hard-won wisdom rather than blind trust. I had learned that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to necessary endings. That surviving deception could make you stronger, more discerning, more authentic. Rebecca's attempt to trap me had ultimately freed me. Marcus's selfishness had cost him everything he valued. Their nuclear fallout had cleared ground for new growth in my life. As I packed for a weekend hiking trip in Vermont, my first real vacation since the divorce, I found myself looking forward rather than back. The scars remained, but they no longer defined me. They were simply part of my story now, reminders of what I had survived. Have you ever experienced betrayal that ultimately led to something better in your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Whether it was a relationship, friendship, or work situation, sometimes the most painful endings create space for new beginnings. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to know they're not alone in navigating betrayal. Thank you for listening to my journey from devastation to recovery. Remember, it's not about how hard you fall, but how you rise afterward that defines you.